It is your girl, Pastor Coach Melina of Bold Faith Community Church. Welcome to our Bible reading. We are on day 76. I'm going to be reading Deuteronomy 17 through 20 from the New Living Translation. I speak English from the New Living Translation. This is a great way for you to build up the habit of getting into the Word every day just by listening or reading along. Um, that'll just help you to get in the word every day, and I'll do a little commentary if I have some. So let's get into it. Oh wait, if you're brand new here, hey girl, hey, go ahead and like the video. If you like these videos, hit the subscribe button. I'm always worried about my sound. Do you know that? Do y'all know that? Because it's always with, oh no, we good with the sound, let's go. Always like, ooh, so can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me. All right, let's get into this. Deuteronomy chapter 17. We're still talking about justice for the people. That's where we left off from last time, um, which would have been Friday. So, chapter 17, verse 1. Never sacrifice sick or defective cattle, sheep, or goats to the Lord your God, for he detests such gifts. When you begin living in the towns the Lord your God has given you, a man or a woman among you might do evil in the sight of the Lord your God and violate the covenant. For instance, they might serve other gods or worship the sun, the moon, or any of the stars, the forces of heaven, which I have strictly forbidden. This is why, like that whole, oh, I just say to the universe, that's strictly forbidden. When you hear about it, investigate the matter thoroughly. If it is true that this detestable thing has been done in Israel, then the man or woman who has committed such an evil act must be taken to the gates of the town and stoned to death. But never put a person to death on the testimony of only one witness. There must always be two or three witnesses. The witnesses must throw the first stones, and then all the people may join in. In this way, you will purge the evil from among you. Suppose a case arises in a local court that is too hard for you to decide. For instance, whether someone is guilty of murder or only of manslaughter, or a difficult lawsuit, or a case involving different kinds of assault. Take such legal cases to the place the Lord your God will choose and present them to the Levitical priest or the judge on duty at that time. They will hear the case and declare the verdict. You must carry out the verdict they announce and the sentence they prescribe at the place the Lord chooses. You must do exactly what they say, and after they have interpreted the law and declared their verdict, the sentence they impose must be fully executed. Do not modify it in any way. Anyone arrogant enough to reject the verdict of the judge or of the priest who represents the Lord your God must die. In this way you will purge the evil from Israel. Then everyone else will hear about it and be afraid to act so arrogantly. The part about them being the first to cast stones or to throw a stone or whatever is the person who witnessed it. So if you witness it and you hear saying you saw it, you don't get to just witness it and then not be involved with the execution. I wonder if things would be. I'm not saying I want to do it. I'm just saying I wonder. It just came to my mind. I wonder how things would be if we had a similar thing, right? Where it's like people who were said they were witnesses to a crime or people who witnessed whatever, if they had to participate in the acting out of the whatever the outcome was, how that might impact our legal system. It also puts me in the mind where they brought the woman to Jesus and he's like, let he who is without sin throw the first stone. So not let the witness throw the first stone, right? Which is what we see here. So Jesus was really, he wasn't just accusing them. He wasn't just reminding them of their sin. He was also changing up the standard of judgment and exacting out judgment on a person. So just saying. Verse 14, you are about to enter the land of the Lord you are about to enter the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you take it over and settle there, you may think, we should select a king to rule over us like the other nations around us. If this happens, be sure to select as king the man the Lord your God chooses. You must appoint a fellow Israelite. He may not be a foreigner. The king must not build up a large stable of horses for himself or send his people to Egypt to buy horses, for the Lord has told you, you must never return to Egypt. The king must not take many wives for himself, because they will turn his heart away from the Lord, and he must not accumulate large amounts of wealth and silver and gold for himself. When he sits on the throne as king, he must copy for himself this body of instruction on a scroll in the presence of the Levitical priests. I mean, it just immediately made me think of Solomon, all these things the Lord said he wasn't supposed to do. And Solomon was the wisest man and asked God for wisdom. And so God gave it to him. So there was no one wiser or who had more money than Solomon. And he had a ton of wives and he had a ton of money. So just reminded me of that, which I guess was not the thing to do. Verse 18, when he sits on the throne as king, he must copy for himself this body of instruction on a scroll in the presence of the Levitical priest. He must always keep that copy with him and read it daily as long as he lives. That way he will learn to fear the Lord his God by obeying all the terms of these instructions and decrees. This regular reading will prevent him from becoming proud and acting as if he's above his fellow citizens. This regular reading will prevent him from becoming proud and acting as if he is above his fellow citizens. It will also prevent him from turning away from these commands in the smallest way, and it will ensure that he and his descendants will reign for many generations in Israel. He's going to be reading this thing every day. These instructions. We have instructions. I wonder what it would look like if we took the time to read these instructions and decrees and things every day. Chapter 18, Gifts for Priests and Levites. Remember that the Levitical priests, that is, the whole of the tribe of Levi, will receive no allotment of land among the other tribes in Israel. Instead, the priests and Levites will eat from the special gifts given to the Lord, for that is their share. They will have no land of their own among the Israelites. The Lord himself is their special possession, just as he promised them. These are the parts the priests may claim as their share from the cattle, sheep, and goats that the people bring as offerings: the shoulder, the cheeks, and the stomach. You must also give to the priests the first share of the grain, the new wine, the olive oil, and the wool at shearing time. For the Lord your God chose the tribe of Levi out of all your tribes to minister in the Lord's name forever. Skipping a page. Suppose a Levite chooses to move from his town in Israel, wherever he is living, to the place the Lord chooses for worship. He may minister there in the name of the Lord his God, just like all his fellow Levites who are serving the Lord there. He may eat his share of the sacrifices and offerings, even if he also receives support from his family. When you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, be very careful not to just kidding. When you enter the land your God is giving you, be very careful not to imitate the detestable customs of the nations living there. For example, never sacrifice your son or daughter as a burnt offering, and do not let your people practice fortune telling, or use sorcery, or interpret omens, or engage in witchcraft, or cast spells, or function as mediums, or psychics, or call forth the spirits of the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. It is because the other nations have done these detestable things that the Lord your God will drive them out ahead of you. But you must be blameless before the Lord your God. The nations you are about to displace consult sorcerers and fortune tellers, but the Lord your God forbids you to do such a thing. This is a calling for them to live holy. And it's interesting to see that they're getting ready to be around all these other cultures and all these other belief systems. And he is saying, do not act like they act. I know that they do all these things, but those things I do not like. Those are the things that I detest. Do not do the things that they do. Why is he telling them that over and over? Because they've never done those things. That's not a part of their culture, right? So why is he telling them that? Because as my mother would say, association bring on assimilation, which I used to hate hearing as a kid. But it's this idea that, when you're around these other cultures for so long, that you could start to live according to them. You could live, you could kind of smear over some of their belief systems with your belief system. All right, verse 15. Verse 15. Moses continued, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. For this is what you yourselves requested of the Lord your God when you were assembled at Mount Sinai. You said, don't let us hear the voice of the Lord our God anymore or see this blazing fire, for we will die. Then the Lord said to me, what they have said is right. I will raise up a prophet like you from among their fellow Israelites. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell the people everything I command him. I will personally deal with anyone who will not listen to the messages the prophet proclaims on my behalf. But any prophet who falsely claims to speak in my name or who speaks in the name of another God must die. But you may wonder, how will we know whether or not a prophecy is from the Lord? If the prophet speaks in the Lord's name, but his prediction does not happen or come true, you will know that the Lord did not give that message. That prophet has spoken without my authority and need not be feared. I think that's very interesting. If you look at the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, there are so many things that so many messages that they prophesied that didn't happen for years and years. Like the prophecy about King Cyrus, being the one to let the children of Israel return to Jerusalem to rebuild. Like that's a thing you never saw that before. That I mean, in their lifetime, right? They said it was going to happen in a way in the future. So how can you tell? You know, time will tell is essentially what he's saying. But in some of these prophecies, it's like so much time when they prophesy about Jesus, so much time. Chapter 19, when the Lord your God destroys the nation whose land he's giving you, you will take over their land and settle in their towns and homes. Then you must set apart 3 cities of refuge in the land of the Lord your God, the land the Lord your God is giving you. Survey the territory and divide the land the Lord your God is giving you into 3 districts, with one of these cities in each district. Then anyone who has killed someone can flee to one of the cities of refuge for safety. If someone kills another person unintentionally, without previous hostility, the slayer may flee to any of these cities to live in safety. For example, suppose someone goes into the forest with a neighbor to cut wood, and suppose one of them swings an axe to chop down a tree, and the axe head flies off the handle, killing the other person. In such cases, the slayer may flee to one of the cities of refuge to live in safety. If the distance to the nearest city of refuge is too far, an enraged avenger might be able to chase down and kill the person who caused the death, then the slayer would die unfairly, since he had never shown hostility toward the person who died. That is why I'm commanding you to set aside 3 cities of refuge. And if the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he swore to your ancestors and gives you all the land he promised, then you must designate 3 additional cities of refuge. He will give you this land if you are careful to obey all his commands I have given you, if you always love the Lord your God and walk in his ways. That way you will prevent the death of innocent people, and in the land the Lord your God has given you as your special possession, you will not be held responsible for the death of innocent people. But suppose someone is hostile towards a neighbor and deliberately ambushes and murders him, and then flees to one of the cities of refuge. In that case, the elders of the murderer's hometown must send agents to the city of refuge to bring him back and hand him over to the dead person's avenger to be put to death. Do not feel sorry for that murderer. Purge from Israel the guilt of murdering innocent people, then all will go well with you. Concern for justice. When you arrive in the land your God has given you as special possession, you must never steal anyone's land by moving the boundary markers your ancestors set up to mark their property. You must not convict anyone of a crime on the testimony of only one witness. The facts of the case must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, which explains why they're always in the New Testament making people lie, paying people to be witnesses. If a malicious witness comes forward and accuses someone of a crime, then both the accuser and the accused must appear before the Lord by coming to the priests and judges in office at that time. The judges must investigate the case thoroughly. If the accuser has brought false charges against his fellow Israelite, you must impose on the accuser the sentence he intended for the other person. In this way, you will purge such evil from among you. Then the rest of the people will hear about it and be afraid to do such an evil thing. You must show no pity for the guilty. Your rule should be life for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for foot. Again, it makes me go back to Jesus. I'm always thinking about Jesus. Makes me go back to Jesus. Okay, so we know that they were false witnesses against him, and you know, first of all, I think people would double down if they killed the Messiah, right? They would double down and not confess that they did it without great cause. But realizing now that they did such a crazy thing, they did this thing to kill an innocent person and also to put their own lives at risk. Because if I kill an innocent person by lying, right, and I lie, bear false witness, because there were so many of them that bear false witness, then that could then turn around on me, which makes sense for them persecuting and not, because I kept thinking like, okay, so now Jesus said, what is the problem with them, sharing this or whatever, if people want to live that way, right? If I choose, like, I'm going to live this way, like, what is that thing? Well, if too many people start living that way and they realize that you were a false witness, that could come back on you, which, I mean, rightfully so. All right, we're in our last chapter, chapter 20. When you go out to fight your enemies and you face horses and chariots and an army greater than your own, do not be afraid. Oh, that is really good. When you go out to fight your enemies and you face horses and chariots and an army greater than your own, do not be afraid when the odds are stacked against you. The Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. When you prepare for battle, the priest must come forward to speak to the troops. He will say to them, listen to me, all you men of Israel. Do not be afraid as you go out to fight your enemies today. Do not lose heart or panic or tremble before them. For the Lord your God is going with you. He will fight for you against your enemies, and he will give you victory. Then the officers of the army must address the troops and say, has anyone here just built a new house, but not yet dedicated it? If so, you may go home. You might be killed in battle, and someone else would dedicate your house. Has anyone here just planted a vineyard, but not eaten any of its fruit? If so, you may go home. You might die in battle, and someone else would eat the first fruit. Has anyone here just become engaged to a woman, but not yet married her? Well, you may go home and get married. You might die in battle, and someone else would marry her. Then the officers will also say, is anyone here afraid or worried? If you are, you may go home before you frighten anyone else. Ooh, now that's good. When the officers have finished speaking to their troops, they will appoint the unit commanders. If you have some unfinished things to do, go ahead, go back. We're going to do this without you because you might die. If you are afraid, if you are worried about this win, you can sit this one out because we don't need that spreading. How dangerous fear and worry are, that they would rather go home. Now, he already said you are facing horses and chariots and an army greater than your own, so they already outnumber you. He's talking about when y'all are already outnumbered. Know that the Lord is with y'all. He's got y'all gonna win. And these other people that fit into these categories, you can send them back to the house. And the people who are afraid and worried, they get to go back home, which reduces the army that you have even more, increases the advantage, the seeming advantage that they have, because it's not a true advantage, right? Because the Lord is with you, but the seeming advantage that they might have over you, send them home, because fear and worry will spread to other people. I wonder what it is in your life that you need to keep fearful and worrisome people away from. I wonder what dream you have that you don't need to be sharing. I wonder what project you're working on. I wonder what thing that you're building. I wonder what thing that you're hoping for, this thing that you're facing, you're getting ready to do because you know that God is with you, that maybe you don't need to share with somebody else because of the amount of fear and worry that they have, that it might creep in. I wonder what fear and worry you have that you might need to keep to yourself. I wonder if you understand how your fear and your worry is contagious. It infects other people, and how dangerous that can be. So dangerous that the Lord is saying, send them home. Don't let them go with y'all. So I want you to think about that. The next time somebody tells you they're going to do something, they're trying to do something, they're telling you about their situation or their circumstance, especially if that person is a believer and they have God with them. They know that God is with them. Keep your worry to yourself. I want you to understand. I'm telling you, there's a whole verse about fear not, right? But cool. If you still cannot conquer your fear and your worry about somebody else's situation, I want you to hear how God is saying it is so contagious. It is so dangerous that you might keep it to yourself. Okay. Not so that you can go with them, but that you might make the decision, I'm going to keep my fear and my worry to myself about somebody else's situation. All right, verse 10. As you approach a town to attack it, you must first offer its people terms for peace. If they accept your terms and open the gates to you, then all the people inside will serve you in forced labor. But if they refuse to make peace and prepare to fight, you must attack the town. When the Lord your God hands the town over to you, use your sword to kill every man in the town, but you may keep for yourselves all the women, children, livestock, and other plunder. You may enjoy the plunder from your enemies that the Lord your God has given you. But these instructions apply only to distant towns, not to the towns of the nations in the land you will enter. And those towns that the Lord your God has given you as a special possession, destroy every living thing. You must completely destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded you. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to imitate their detestable customs in the worship of their gods, which would cause you to sin deeply against the Lord your God. He's saying there are some people you will not be able to make peace with. There are some people I don't want you making peace with. There are some things I don't want you making peace with. These are the things that I just want you to rip up, tear up, right? I don't want you making peace with some things. Verse 19. When you are attacking a town and the war drags on, you must not cut down the trees with your axes. You may eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. Are the trees your enemies that you should attack them? You may only cut down trees that you know are not valuable for food. Use them to make the equipment you need to attack the enemy town until it falls. Amen. I pray that this time in the Word, this morning in the Word, daily Bible reading has blessed you and is helping you to build a habit of getting in the Word. One of the things that you can do to take this from Bible reading to Bible studying is to choose a verse from what we read today, Deuteronomy chapter 17 through 20. I know that's a lot, but you could just choose a verse, one verse that resonates with you, a verse that teaches you about the character or attributes of God, or what his expectations are of us, or any promises that he made to the people. You can take that and get bold with the verse. Use the bold method, which is a devotional method, to go deeper in the word, to interpret it, and to get instruction for today in any area of your life. All right, so I hope to see you again tomorrow, right here, 7 a.m. EST, or in the replay. Be sure to let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like that video and subscribe. All right, love y'all. See y'all tomorrow.